Welcome back. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and US President Joe Biden held their first conversation in more than a month. It comes at a crucial time for the Middle East. The White House saying that the half-hour phone call was a very direct and productive call, but didn't go into detail. According to a new book by Bob Woodward, Biden has criticized Netanyahu in private, calling him a liar and a bad guy. The White House said the two spoke today about Israel's planned response to Iran's missile attack. Mr. Biden has said it should be proportional. Israel's defense minister suggested today that it would be lethal, precise, and surprising. Our international diplomatic editor, Nick Robertson, joins us now live from Tel Aviv. Good to have you with us, Nick. So, of course, this phone call between Biden and Netanyahu comes after we read the accounts published by Bob Woodward, the investigative journalist, who says Biden used some pretty colourful language to describe Netanyahu after previous calls. What do you know about this call today and who instigated it?
Well, the White House hasn't given us any indication that suddenly trust between the pair has been rebuilt and that President Biden has a newly formed confidence that the Israeli Prime Minister is actually listening to him. They talked about, President Biden offering condolences about October 7th to Prime Minister Netanyahu. They talked about it should be a proportional response, although we have no details about what was discussed about that response. Israel's response to Iran's missiles fired here just over a week ago. We know that President Biden has previously said that he doesn't think it's appropriate to target Iran's nuclear sites, or is it appropriate, he thinks, to target their oil production facilities. So what does that leave? Possibly the implications that one might infer that are being talked about are like for like military targets, military sites. But really the readout from this call has given us no clues whatsoever. And I think perhaps the best insight we have about where the mood within the Israeli government may lie at the moment was what you said from Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, who went to the intelligence headquarters after that phone call and is reported to have said that there would be a powerful strike. It would be a precise strike. He noted that Iran's strikes on Israel hadn't been precise. It would be surprising. He said they wouldn't understand what happened or how it happened, alluding to some sort of stealth operation, perhaps. But very clearly, what hasn't changed here at all is Israel's intent to strike back and how much pressure and influence this direct conversation has had on the Israeli Prime Minister to meet the United States' wishes that it doesn't escalate tensions further in the region. We don't have a sense of that. And I think realistically, we may only have a sense of it after Israel has struck back at Iran. And then we can measure against what the Prime Minister was believed to want, to be able to strike the nuclear sites. We can only measure then how much influence this call and difference this call actually had.
I mean, and that's the point, right? The US president has been trying to use all diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation, the tensions in the Middle East. But the situation keeps intensifying. We know that the US says that it's not going to push to revive these ceasefire talks. Do we know if that came up in the discussion at all today?
We know that US officials have a huge concern about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, and in particular northern Gaza, where the IDF has renewed its offensive in three large urban areas. There are about 400,000 people have been affected. New evacuation orders have gone into effect. Hospitals in the north have been told to evacuate. And the message from US officials today, and it's not clear that this precisely was communicated this way by President Biden to Prime Minister Netanyahu, but it's an obligation to abide by international humanitarian law, which is to make sure there's enough food, make sure there's enough water getting through, make sure all the humanitarian requirements of the people in Gaza, particularly northern Gaza, are getting what they need. And I think if you measure the pressure that the United States has put on Israel in the past to achieve that and the lack of results therein, it does seem to indicate that even when President Biden has applied what he believes is a lot of pressure, what his critics say isn't enough, it doesn't bend the will of the Israeli government very far. That's how it appears. And Doctors Without Borders, MSF, today have said, as far as northern Gaza goes, they have supplies that they would like to be able to distribute, but they can't get into northern Gaza. Other UN agencies are saying they haven't been able to get into northern Gaza for over a week to distribute aid. So that impression of a humanitarian constriction and pressure on the population there to move yet again in the face of another offensive, really, the fact that that's going on does fly in the face of the rhetoric that we hear from the White House and US officials, that it is in a large part, as far as we see, has little effect.
Yeah, and we've been hearing that frustration from aid agencies we've been speaking to this week, 1 year into this war in Gaza. Nick Robertson for us. Good to have you there. Thank you.